You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and it's 3/18/21. Well, are you going to need a passport to get on an airplane? If the airlines have their way, that's what they would like, and others as well. And if we're all going to be vaccinated by May of this year, what's the need for the COVID passport? That's what we're asking, and that's what John Jordan is asking. And we'd like to know your opinion. So why don't you send us an email to kl@kerrylutz.com. John, interesting background you have. JD, degree in economics. I feel like we have a lot of similarities there. You're fluent in both German and Russian. I'm not. And you fly jets, which I don't. But all those things aside, hey, I love your wine. You're CEO of Jordan Vineyard and Winery. And I remember being out at your vineyard probably about 25, 30 years ago. Great wine. So are you ready to go get your COVID passport? And where do you get it? That's the question.
Absolutely not. This is absolutely, it's on its face ridiculous. It's ridiculous on its face. As you pointed out, and you're open. We're all going to be vaccinated in May. What's the point? There's no real need. But that's where you move from ridiculous into scary, because this is just the type of infrastructure or scaffolding, if you will, that those who would seek to reorganize American society where it's less free and we are less private, whether you're talking about the Chinese Communist Party wanting this or people in the progressive elements in the U.S. that would need this type of surveillance information, this is how you'd go about it. A public health crisis, whether it's real or imagined, past or present, you would need this type to grow the type of documentation and grow data and your ability to track Americans. And that's what this kind of thing is, because, and I'll put it to you this way, is who really believes that after this passes, that there isn't going to be some sort of reason why we have to still use these passports?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. And when I'm looking at what they're up to, you got to wonder, like, is there something else behind this? And hey, look, the fact is that outside of nursing homes, 99.7% of all people who get COVID recover from it. So we're going to totally reorder society and totally restrict freedoms because why? I don't understand.
Well, what is it? You know, that great phrase that people in the Obama administration use, never let a crisis go to waste. And this is an opportunity using public health to reimagine American society. Here's an interesting tidbit is when this first came out, the bit about the travel passports, the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing, they offered to, helpful folks that they offered to help administer this. And that can't help but make you suspicious.
You mean you're here from the Chinese Communist Party and you're here to help? That makes me feel That makes me feel as good as if you were from the government out to help me as well.
Yeah, when we have these types of things, they never go away. I mean, who really believes that there's at some point the Democrats or Dr. Fauci, the public health establishment, progressives and bureaucrats are going to say, hey, the crisis is past us now. We don't need to worry about any of this stuff anymore. Who really believes that they are not going to exploit this to further a political agenda? And you only have to look at the last year to see how this has been politicized to see it. So I would urge everyone to, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, resist this vaccine passport.
Yeah. And our buddies at the TSA, they're the ones who are going to be administering this, correct?
Don't just survive. Thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Lumina Gold, ticker symbol LUM on the Toronto Venture and LMGDF on the OTC, is yet another of legendary mining investor Ross Beatty's Lumina Group. It's advancing the largest primary gold deposit in Ecuador. The resource is estimated to contain 16.7 million ounces of gold and 2.2 billion pounds of copper. At just $7 US per ounce gold equivalent, it trades at an incredible 13% of its net present value. More good news is on the way with an updated PEA study expected in Q2 of 2020. It has unparalleled infrastructure. There's grid power to camp with plentiful, inexpensive hydropower available. It's close to 2 ports and is just 8 kilometers from a paved highway. Water is plentiful, it's at low elevation, and the closest community, which is very supportive of Lumina's effort, is just a 7-kilometer ride. With all this going for it, it's likely to follow the typical Ross Beatty formula, which means big returns to shareholders. Find out more and sign up for notifications at luminagold.com. That's Lumina, Lumina gold.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Oh yeah, and I guess they're the ones that be administering this. It's not really sure. I mean, is it a federal program or is it being done for international travel? And that's when it gets really scary. It's not just the TSA. Then foreign governments have access to this information, and even if they're friendly foreign governments, who's to say it isn't hacked by our friends in Beijing or our friends in Moscow? So it's even if they say that it's just domestic and it's just temporary, don't believe them, because that doesn't make any sense.
Hey, well, Milton Friedman, our good friend from the Monetarist, used to say there's nothing as permanent in life as a temporary tax. And if you look at the TSA, they're useless. They really don't stop anything. But here they are. It's 20 years later, we still have a TSA.
Absolutely. And this is the same sort of thing, except that the intrusiveness is not just a simple pat down or wanding at an airport. This is the type of intrusiveness that follows you wherever you go.
Yeah. So do you think this is inevitable?
No, I don't. I think that the good news is I think it's going to be hard to pull off, because there has to be broad agreement as to who's doing it, why they're doing it, who gets the data, how long do we say this is going to last? There's a lot that has to be done. And I don't see that there's a broad agreement on how to do it. In the time frame that they would need it done.
All right. Well, we can only hope that you're right. But on the other hand, the TSA is still alive and kicking and doesn't show any indication of going away, does it?
No, it does not. The TSA is a warning of what could be afoot here.
Yeah. So what do you think? You really think that we're going to beat them at this, or are they going to have their way with us as they usually do?
They, in terms of the passport?
Yeah, in terms of the government and doing what they do best.
I think this is going to be complicated for the government to pull off. I think that they might require legislation to do this. Certainly it requires this is a great example of where the slowness and inefficiency of the government in getting something spun up works for us. I think it's going to be months before they could even really do. The airlines kind of, are useful suckers in this, and they just want more traffic. But these conversations happened. I mean, they started with this vaccine passport thing before airline traffic really started to improve. Like last week, that was the most travelers went through TSA checkpoints than at any other time since the pandemic began. People are beginning to move about now. So I think that the hunger for this by the airlines is going to start to wane.
All right.
As traffic picks up.
We can only hope you're right, because it's just going to make their business more difficult, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's going to be here, John, but I think you might have a point here. Anyways, people want to find out more, read your writing. You can go over to newsmax.com. Is your writing any other place besides there?
I've written for foxnews.com and Daily Caller also.
All right. Excellent. And if you got a question, comment for John, you can just email me, KL@kerrylutz.com. Don't forget, sign up for our newsletter. That's financialsurvivalnetwork.com. John, really appreciate you coming on, and we'll continue to observe and see what happens next.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.